Welcome to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from September 14th, 1995.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening or good morning across all these many time zones. Tahiti, Hawaii, in the west, the Caribbean, the newly threatened Caribbean in the east, the U.S. Virgins. I don't know. It's a rough hurricane season, folks. South into South America, north to the pole, we think. This is Coast to Coast AM. Live talk radio. Unscreened talk radio. Unpredictable. Unusual. Even at times a little weird. But fun. Definitely fun. And that is part of my plan on radio, to have fun. If you can't have fun, you ought not be doing it. And tonight I would like to welcome WHEP-AM in Foley, Alabama, scorching into Mobile, Alabama, and Pensacola, Florida. They will be carrying the program from, well, let me see. I guess they carry well, I don't know. Doesn't say here. We'll have to ask somebody there. Looks like Total Carriage, though, and Dreamland as well. So, welcome to the program. Good to have you. And then also, that'd be affiliate number 110, incidentally. 111 would be KYLR AM in Huntsville, Texas. That's KYLR AM in Huntsville, Texas. I'm not exactly sure where Huntsville is. I'm sure we'll be told. Now, I want to read you something because I'm going to do something a little different here in a moment, maybe. I got, thank God for the Internet, I got a very interesting fax from a fellow named Stan Dayo, I think it's Dayo, all the way down in Perth, Australia. That's the thing about the Internet, it's everywhere. And here's what he said. Art, my home is too far away to receive your program. I'm in Perth, Australia. But my brother in Tacoma, Washington, speaks very highly of your show and your methods of exploring the data you encounter. I was recruited by Edward Teller's man, Dr. James R. Maxfield, in Dallas in 1971. This took me to Australia to continue my research into advanced propulsion systems for aircraft and spacecraft. Not long into the program, I disagreed violently with the cover-up of our findings and developments which I knew could have greatly benefited mankind. I was not at Roswell. I have never seen an alien, to my knowledge. However, I have been involved in advanced research projects which would explain a lot of the so-called UFOs around the planet. We've had over 50 R&D programs, black, since the mid-50s that were set up to make circular winged aircraft and spacecraft. The former worked on ionized plasmas of CO2 seeded nitrogen envelopes in dynamic motion around and through the core of a disc-shaped craft. The latter used a form of pulsed toroidal magnetic fields to move the craft in space, water, or air. I have seen the inside of one of our own toroidal craft in an assembly area in the desert. There have been numerous test areas that operated under NATO banners and others. One was in Saudi Arabia and was called, and I can't make out the name of it, west of the Persian Gulf and in Bahrain as well. I've always known enough to be dangerous to the several factions involved in the use and cover-up of the technology and the alien scenario. Fortunately, someone in these factions has spared me, a bit in exile here in the most remote city on Earth. I do not know how much more I can contribute to the revelation of the truth in these matters, which seem to occupy a great deal of the human consciousness in the Western world of late. I was a cadet at the USAF Academy in Colorado, class of 67. I held both secret and top secret security clearances for our government. There I was involved in a most unique mind training program, which is still classified above top secret. Believe me when I tell you that I encourage you in your search for the truth in these matters. But I also caution you to ask yourself, what will you do when you find out? Will you like the answer? Will you wish you had not found out? I sometimes wonder what it would be like to live life in a sort of oblivious, lemming-like pursuit of worldly stimuli, not knowing what to do, not having seen the things I have seen, things which I cannot prove anymore, but things which are so bizarre that I marvel they have not leaked out in all this hype about the aliens in Area 51. No one seems to have realized the real UFO research areas are not accessible by laypersons. They're under lakes, under bodies, and under the planet's poles in underground facilities. Some are here in Australia, in the middle of nowhere, at Pine Gap, underground, and in South Africa. But the most sensitive ones are at the South Pole. Teller's group used to control most of these until another faction grabbed control of the international groups. Now, I found this to be fascinating, and so, you know me. I picked up the telephone and called Australia. That's right, I called Australia. And in a moment, I'm going to try to pick up the phone and call Australia again. No guarantees. But I'm going to see if I can get Stan on the air for a little bit here and talk to us about what he knows. What has banished him to Perth in the land down under? Well, there's nothing like going to the other side of the world, and I think that I have connected with Stan. So let us give it a shot, and to the land down under we go, Perth, Australia, and to Stan. Is it Stan Dayo? Is it Dayo, Stan, or how do we pronounce your last name?
That's correct, Art. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, and welcome to the program. Stan, I found the the piece of email that you sent me across this wonderful internet we've got, fascinating. And so I want to ask you in person, for the audience, a little bit of some of what is contained in the facts. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. First of all, how did you become involved with these kinds of aircraft, with these kinds of spacecraft, with this kind of research? What were you doing that got you involved?
Well, first of all, I went to the Air Force Academy as a cadet, and while I was at the Academy, I was inducted into a special black project, I suppose would be the best word to use, an intelligence project, which did teach me a lot of physics that is not mainline stuff. When I left the Academy, I went back to Dallas, Texas, where I was raised. And a few years passed, and I did private research in developing a new kind of propulsion for aircraft that would, in essence, make a circular-winged flying disc using a moving plasma over the surface of the wing.
All right, all right. Already, Stan, you're going to get ahead of me. Now, we've got to reduce this down to what the average person can understand. I'm a little technically minded, but when you begin talking about new propulsion systems, explain to a layman how that might work.
Well, all right. Most aircraft have to race down a runway until they can get the relative airspeed up to the point that it lifts the craft off the ground, reducing the pressure over the top of the wing.
Right.
These kind of craft that I was designing did not have to have a runway. They were like a vertical takeoff device that would whirl the air around them in a vortex, out the center and around and underneath. And like a bumblebee, they would then lift into the air and fly by pulling a vacuum in front of them. They never pushed their way through the air. They could go very fast, somewhat like a smoke ring at 20,000 miles an hour.
Oh, my God. Can you tell us where this research took place?
Well, what I was doing was in my own private lab at home, a lot of mathematics and some electronics tests. I never really figured out how they knew exactly what I was doing, but Teller and Maxfield's people from Lawrence Livermore approached me privately and knew everything I was doing. They had been there and done that in the mid-'50s, a long time before me. So,
all right. How did that, as they approached you, on what basis did they take you way down to Australia?
Well, Dr. Maxfield's exact words were something to the effect of, my boy, don't ask now, just understand that Australia is the place for you to finish your research, not here. We're going to make everything available for you there and send you down there, which they did do.
Mm-hmm.
Look, they had had over 50 projects like this since the mid-'50s in the United States, at least started there. Some had moved offshore down to the South Pole and into Australia, apparently in near the center of Australia. I did not know about those until they told me. I didn't even know they existed until these guys, collared me. I still don't to this day know how they found out what I was doing.
You say here, I was not at Roswell. I've never seen an alien, to my knowledge. Now,
yep.
The craft that you're describing, that you say that we have, are exactly the craft that are being seen all over the world and are being called, frankly, flying saucers. Would it be your contention or belief that most, if not all of these, belong to us?
Let me divide it this way. Before 1952, I don't believe that any of the sightings or contacts were ours or were man-made. After that, yes, a great deal of them. But in 1958, worldwide research in over 100 companies and universities across the planet working in those propulsion systems and publishing, I might add, in the trade journals, electronics journals, and aerodynamics journals, stopped publishing in the same month all across the world as though some invisible hand had put a muzzle on them, not just the U.S. government. It went across national boundaries. And after that, public information was about zilch on electrogravitic propulsion or anti-gravity.
All right. Is that what it is, Stan? Is it actually anti-gravity? And I guess I've got to have you explain it again. If it's anti-gravity, can you explain how it works? Can you, again, remember, we're just poor lay people.
All right, two things. When I first started this, I was designing an aircraft which used air that had been slightly heated in temperature, heated a lot, and had electric current running through it over the top of the saucer shape, and this caused the air to move in a tight pattern around the craft and up to the core and swirl like a bumblebee. It's like instead of having a propeller, you have electrons moving the air around the craft. Now, that's an aircraft. Later developments, or in fact, the earlier developments I didn't know about at the time, in the U.S. research, had developed some very complex toroidal coils, smoke ring-shaped flat coils. They look somewhat like the Pharaoh's headband, if you can remember that, where they've got the little stripes running around the headband of the Pharaoh's little ring that he used to wear on his head.
Yes.
Anyway, these craft did use a very complex interactive pulse electric current and magnetic fields, and they generated an effect that would, in effect, bend gravity. Now, I didn't develop those. I came along afterwards. I did see photographs and had it explained to me in the assembly area. But basically what happens is they can use a very small power source and pulse it at the frequency that is just right for the circuit they've designed in the craft, and it will store up energy in the form of moving magnetic fields and current, which switches from one circuit to another at right angles.
You know, Stan, I've got to stop you here for a second. You know, what you're describing sounds remarkably like what was described to me in simpler technical terms with regard to that old famous Philadelphia experiment. I've, of course, interviewed Al Bielek many times, and what he talked about is fairly close to what I seem to be getting from you.
Did Al say that, did he?
Well, something close to it. In other words, pulsing magnetic fields with RF, rotating RF fields at a certain frequency. Does that sound familiar?
Yep. Very close. I am familiar with the Philadelphia experiment.
So then the technology that you heard used there is close to what you are describing now.
Yes. As as I said to you in the letter, Dr. Frederick Tatford, Atomic Energy Commission in London, contacted me a couple years back. He was a friend of Einstein's, and he and Dr. Einstein had discussed the Philadelphia experiment and the implications of it. And they wanted, well, he was dead by that time, but then Dr. Tatford said to me, I would like for you to explain to me what you think happened, and I will, within the boundaries, what I'm allowed to tell you, confirm it, which I did do, and he confirmed that I had understood the process correctly.
All right, Stan, we have a great echo, of course, and a great time difference and a great geographic difference, so I'm going to ask you to hold on. We're here at the bottom of the hour. There will be 4 minutes of silence. Don't let it bother you. Just stay right where you are. Which happens, by the way, everybody, to be Perth, Australia.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time on Premier Radio Networks. Tonight, an encore presentation of Coast to Coast AM from September 14th, 1995. You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring a replay of Coast to Coast AM from September 14th, 1995.
Here I am. My guest is Stan Dayo. He's in Perth, Australia. He's there for a very good reason. We'll explore that in a moment. Back to Perth, Australia, and Stan Dayo. Stan, are we still connected?
Yes, Art. I don't have any echo on my side. Do you on your side?
Only occasionally. It's actually a better connection, Stan, than I get sometimes with Las Vegas. So it's a good connection. There is a little bit of a delay. That's not a big problem. Now,
you know, we are the most remote city on Earth.
Is that true?
That's true.
What time is it there, by the way?
It's 2:37 in the afternoon on Friday. And I can tell you, it's sunny. You'll have a good Friday.
Well, if the weather pattern's hold. Listen, now, how many years did you work on these kind of craft?
In the States, probably about 3 or 4. I guess I did work on them from about 68, 69 to 71 when they sent me down to Australia. And I made contact with my intelligence group down here.
Would it be your view that the technology in the Philadelphia experiment was the genesis of what led toward the kind of work you did?
If not, it was certainly a main part of it because there were other offshoots to propulsion. There's a way to convert just heat energy from the surrounding environment using something similar in a pumped action like that. So a lot of things came out of the Philadelphia-type research.
All right. Well, I have always thought that it would be impossible, even if everything about the Philadelphia experiment were true and men caught between decks and all the horrible things that we heard about, that they would just drop the technology and quit investigating. That seemed impossible. And what you're telling us is they didn't.
That's correct.
So you're kind of like where the Philadelphia experiment went. I guess I would think of you that way. Now, we've got these craft, and they're flying about. Why has this technology not yet been made available? Because, my God, it would be a power source. It would be all kinds of things that would benefit mankind. Why don't we know about it, except from you?
Well, Art, you sound kind of like I did back in 1973 or 74 down here when I really got cranky with the fellows that I work for here in that area, because I said to them the very same thing. Why aren't we sharing this? There are people that need this technology just to survive. Hundreds of millions of people need it. And they kind of told me that I didn't understand the situation about the factions, the groups that are vying for control of the entire planet, and that they couldn't just release this because it would create havoc and precipitate wars. I didn't buy it, and that's where we parted company in very unfriendly terms. I wanted to make it public, which I have certainly started doing, and they didn't.
Well, you are, and I should tell the audience, an author. You have written something called The Cosmic Conspiracy and the Vindicator Scrolls. What are those books?
Well, the first book I wrote 18 years ago as kind of life insurance. I named names, and they've never ever come back on me. I've talked about Teller, Maxfield, Sir John Williams, a lot of them that were involved in my particular intelligence group in the cover-up. And I wrote that book so that they would know that I was prepared to tell that much and would go further if they didn't get off my back. And so we came to a stalemate for 18 years. Now a lot of those guys are not even in power anymore, or if they are, they're not quite as strong as they used to be. And so I think it's probably time to say more.
Well, okay, I would like you to be able to use your own words and tell us what you know exists and where it is. In other words, tell us as much as you can. And would you view yourself as putting yourself in danger right now by doing this?
No more than going into traffic in New York City at rush hour.
Is that because you're in Perth, Australia, and not here?
No. Believe me, there's no way you run from some of the crowds if they want to get you. It's because there are factions fighting factions, and some of them are covering me at the moment. That I'm quite, unassailed by all this. Where to start? Well, let me put it this way. We have technology to make, and have made, flying saucers. That's the simplest way to say it. They are saucer-shaped. Some of them are triangular with kind of rounded corners. The Aurora projects that everyone thinks are so secret and wonderful are nifty, but they are 10 to 12 years out of date. Certainly, you couldn't possibly believe that they would let something like that leak out like this unless it were out of date. I mean, even the model makers are selling models of the Aurora secret craft. But they used portions of technology that were used a long time ago in building the first saucer craft. And the portions are like high voltage charges on the fuel stream and on the wings, definitely up over 20,000 volts, and in some cases probably point voltages of 15 million. And they used barium titanate shields on them. These things are old technology. The newer craft are being controlled by groups. I couldn't even begin to tell you the names of the current controllers. But in my day, the United States and Great Britain still had a fairly hard control over where this technology was going. We had bases in Norway. We had them in Jabal Tawak in Saudi Arabia, west of Bahrain, all underground. We had research being done here at Pine Gap in the center of Australia, and another one which is called the Star Trek of the North in the Kimberley regions of the mountains of northern Australia. We had them down at the South Pole. Dr. Maxfield in Dallas showed me photographs taken in their submarine trips down there to reach the bases. Some of these bases where the really good stuff has gone on is just totally inaccessible by you as a civilian.
Oh my God!
We have
all of this going on right under our noses. In fact, under our Earth is what you're saying.
A great deal of it, yes. It has. They have broadened their horizon since then and moved above the ground, but in those days, yeah.
All right. What was, Stan, the latest craft that you had anything to do with? What were its capabilities? What could it do?
The ones that I actually designed and drew papers up for the Aeronautical Research Group was an aircraft that superheated air. It was slow starting. It would throw the air up out a hole in the middle of the saucer shape like a donut, splash it around the surface down underneath, and recirculate the air, as I say, like a bumblebee spinning or like a smoke ring. And we would inject a 6% CO2 solution in a nitrogen gas envelope in the center of that. And that's how we would start it and make it an electric plasma like it's in fluorescent lights. And that's why they glow, or those type did. Now, that's what I was working on because I had not come to the level yet of these pulse magnetic field craft. I was shown the other stuff. And certainly we have craft that fly using technology very similar, as you pointed out, to the Philadelphia radar shield experiment. I have tried these things. I've tried to recreate them in my lab here and have proceeded to hurt myself and one of my staff to the point that we are not going to do it for a while until we think we understand a couple of things a little bit better. It produces magnetic fields that they hurt you.
I've talked to so many people about magnetic fields. It has been a lifelong fascination for me. I'm going to jump way ahead here because we're going to have to come back to the technical part. I'm going to jump ahead and ask you about one of the paragraphs you sent me in the email. And it is, I encourage you in your search for the truth in these matters, but I caution you to ask yourself, what will you do when you find out? Will you like the answer? Will you wish you had not found out? Why, what did you mean by that? And please explain.
Well, Art, there are some things that I do know about what is happening that are going, once you find them out, and I think you will, and a lot of other folks, you are going to find yourself very threatened in your lifestyle, very threatened. So much so that you may wish you hadn't found out. I mean, you might just rather have lived in blissful ignorance rather than worry about what the implications of it are.
You know, Stan, you sound very much like somebody else that I've interviewed many times and who is a good friend of mine named John Lear. Do you know her? Or
John? I've talked to John a couple times on the phone, but I've never met him.
Well, he says much the same kind of thing, Stan, that you really ought to perhaps live your life day to day, enjoy your life, and there are some things that you'd be better off not knowing, and that is, in essence, what you are saying.
Yes.
I want to know these things, Stan.
Art, I appreciate that. As I said to you, my concern is that in kind of good civic duty, some of the things that we might discuss might move some of your audience to do things that they shouldn't. I mean, like silly things like stockpiling, hoarding, and dropping out. And I wouldn't want that to happen. It's difficult for me to figure out how to say it.
All right. Let me put your mind at ease. I cannot imagine anything you would say that would be more startling than some of the things John Lear has said, or some of the things Gordon Michael Scallion has said regarding Earth changes.
Have you got Gordon on the program?
Oh, Gordon is also a very good friend of mine, and
gee, blimey, I correspond with all these guys. I didn't realize that.
You do correspond with Gordon.
Oh yeah, he and I talk and exchange email and whatever.
All right. Well, that's amazing. It is a small world, isn't it?
Art, I'm tied into the U.S. government databases with permission to the USGS, and I draw earthquake and volcano information. I also draw data on the sun from Kitt Peak every day. I get a daily feed from them, analyzing and predicting as best we can where the next major quakes are going to be and the intensity. That's why Gordon Michael Scallion and I talk.
You are aware, of course, of the large 7.2 earthquake south of Mexico City earlier in the day.
Yes, I'm aware of that. It came across the screen this morning.
Do you know how that, can you comment on how that relates to Scallion's latest predictions, you know, the series of quakes he has predicted?
Well, I got to confess something. I have so much to read that I glance at these newsletters, hit the high points, and put it in the stack with all the rest, and they kind of run together. Can you remind me of what particular...
All right. Well, he has predicted a series of 4 earthquakes that will occur before the end of the year, culminating in a very large earthquake in California. And if this series of quakes completes in the year 1995, he then predicts there will be a major, catastrophic Earth movement that will literally change the Western map and do a lot more. So when you say that you know things that would cause people to hoard or to drop out, I doubt that you could say anything that would be more shocking or cause people to go in that direction more than he has. So.
All right. No. All right. Well, certainly that is a major part of it. That is somewhat natural disasters, and there are a lot more of those in the area of asteroids and comets over the next 10 to 12 years that are probably equally as threatening, if not more. Certainly what Gordon is saying, I agree in this respect. I've been analyzing data from the NASA CWIF satellite, sea surface temperature satellites over the last year, and there's a strange like heat wave or heat pattern underneath the crust of the Earth's surface that has several hot spots, and one of them is off Mexico and southern California, Baja California, another off Florida. In fact, on both sides of Florida, up near Georgia, and on the east coast of Florida. all along the west coast of Europe to the Atlantic Ridge. The Mediterranean and Japan is absolutely chock-a-block, and in the Philippines. All these areas are suffering intense crustal activity. As to what is causing the temperature rise, we know that there are magma movements deep down in the surface, but I can't be positive enough about the cause and effect link to say that's doing it.
All right. Well, that is very similar to what Gordon Michael Scallion has said regarding a plasma displacement deep within the Earth. So you agree on that, I guess?
Yes. Well, I can see it. I mean, I guess I'm a pragmatist, and I like to see the data, and I trust NASA's data reasonably well at this point anyway on this particular subject.
All right, again, so that we might understand, you're in essence laying out some scientific evidence, you say, that backs up what Scallion says he sees. So give it to me again, please. This, what are you able to access that tells you that the magma is moving in this way?
Well, I've gone into the NASA, for people that are on the Internet, they can access this through NASA's web page for SEWIF, S-E-A-W-I-F. In fact, they can do a search and find SEWIF and get into the SEWIF color images for the planet. Mm-hmm. Those are done fairly regularly each week. And this is a color map of the temperature of the Earth's water surfaces, as done by their satellite and other data gathering services. What you do is you take two of those photographs and you use something like Photoshop, a photo processing program,
mm-hmm. Yes.
And you subtract the two images to get the change in temperature, whether it be dropping or rising. And that is how you make a differential thermograph of that, which is what we've been doing in our newsletter and various other email feeds that we supply, keeping an eye on it. And by golly, you can see it. There's just no question about it. Big white splashes appear where the temperature is rising in these areas off the California coast, off the Aleutians, and Japan. I tell you what, I wouldn't live there in a fit at the moment. The heat spot is very concentrated under Japan all the way into the Chinese coast, and I would expect earthquakes and small tidal waves between now and December. That's just an educated guess, not a prophecy, just a guess. We
are having here in America, in the Caribbean, one of the very worst hurricane seasons in all of recorded history. You'd have to go back 60 or 70 years to find something equivalent, and it looks like, and it's still very early in the season, so something is going on with the weather. Is it related?
I think so. I know Scientific American put out an article about the magma sheet rising in the Atlantic off the European coast. And so there is a large heat influx there, or rise there. And certainly in the Caribbean area, or Caribbean, there is a massive heat buildup underneath in the water. Again, I assume that it is plasma activities deep down, 500-600 kilometers down. I don't have enough data to be exact, but it is enough to convince me that when people like Scallion and some of the others start to see this, that there's something happening.
Gordon Michael Scallion came on my program not very long ago and gave us a specific warning about volcanic activity in the Caribbean. And
that I can believe.
Yes. And so that would relate to the heat spot that you say anybody with Internet access could see for themselves.
Yeah, they'd have to subtract the two images month by month. I just took August, from the 1st of August to the last of August, and subtracted the two images and got a heat pattern build up in those areas. I've done it for longer than that, but just in 1 month there's enough to tell you that we've got troubles there. And it's up toward where Florida actually hooks on to the American continent, where that little bottleneck is. The heat pattern is right under that. It is obvious. There's no question about it. In fact, I looked at it and I thought, I've got to be wrong because we don't have volcanoes in Florida.
Well, what are mainstream scientists, researchers, USGS types saying about it, or are they discussing it, or is it open?
I haven't seen any open traffic on it. Understand that USGS is under a lot of pressure right now to be shut down. In the height of all the earthquakes and volcanoes and terrible things that have been happening, with them doing so much research to help us predict earthquakes in California and Japan and whatever, the Congress, U.S. Congress, has wanted to shut them down, has compromised instead and laid off hundreds and hundreds of USGS staff in the last month. Now, I understand why, but a lot of people wouldn't. USGS is a semi-public government arm, and there's another group that does monitoring called Shakelady, Shakelady, for the Defense Department, and they have infinitely better resources than USGS, but not available to the public. So that's why FEMA gets the feeds more than USGS.
Is it your view that they know very well what is coming and will not tell us?
Art, in a word, yes. And listen to me. Now, this is one of the things that I'm very reluctant to discuss openly, but there's a lot of guys, a lot of scientists telling me we should, and I'm not sure I agree with them. But if you knew, Art, a particular piece of real estate, large real estate piece, was going to suffer a lot of damage like this, it was going to impact property values, if not destroy them, commerce, industry, whatever, and you were the government, in wisdom, would you make a public announcement too early in the game and say to people, oh, look, you might die in the next year or two because this is going to happen, but stay there until we get things organized. We'll let you know. You couldn't do it. There would be a mass exodus. As it is, since Gordon has come out saying what he's saying, and he's so darned accurate, the property values in California have dropped. They've dropped all along the west of the Rocky Mountains, except in Oregon and part of Washington State. And for the life of me, I don't know why they don't drop there, because the volcanoes are two of them are on standby one alert at the moment.
Stan,
Rocky have gone up.
Stan, I'm going to have to go to news here at the top of the hour. Can you hold?
Sure.
All right. Again, there will be silence till about 06:15 past the hour. Stay right where you are. Stan in Perth, Australia. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring a replay of Coast to Coast AM from September 14th, 1995. Premier Radio Networks presents Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight's program originally aired September 14th, 1995.
Good morning, everybody. I'll do my own little intro here. We've got Stan Dayo. He's a very special guest from Perth, Australia. We've got him on here all the way from Perth, Australia, and he's telling us about craft he's been working on and about things he knows that, frankly, will curl your hair. So we're going to bring him back in just a moment. Now, to recap very briefly, and we're going to have to, this is a man, Stan Dayo, who says he was recruited by Edward Teller's man, Dr. James Maxfield, in Dallas in 1971, and went to Australia, did work on flying saucer craft, not theirs, not alien craft, but our craft that we now have and use. We've moved from that area, and we're going to retrench there a little bit, into some of the areas, he gave me a paragraph here I asked him about, and it says, believe me when I tell you I encourage you in your search for the truth in these matters. But I caution you, ask yourself, what will you do when you find out? Will you like the answer? Will you wish you had not found out? I sometimes wonder what it would be like to live life in a sort of oblivious, lemming-like pursuit of worldly stimuli, not knowing what to do. I asked him what that meant, and it seems to mean much the same thing that Gordon Michael Scallion has been saying. Late news, an earthquake in Oklahoma as well. You know about the 7.2 in Mexico, a very large quake. Thank God, not many killed. Now we find one. Let me see, it was actually in Oklahoma, about 25 miles south of Medicine Lodge, Kansas, at 6:32 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time today. 4.1, that's absolutely an incredible place. We are having earthquakes in strange places. Back now to Perth, Australia, and Stan Dayo. Are you there, Stan?
Yes, I am, Art.
Excellent.
I've been listening to you, and I'm on the Art Bell channel on the IRC radio chat, and one of your listeners in in California has just signed on here by satellite link somehow or another. Riverside, California. So you've got people out there listening.
That's absolutely remarkable. Which IRC chat channel are you on?
I've set up a channel called Art Bell, ARTBELL, and I'm the administrator called LaFalcon, L-E, well, you'll see it anyway to get there. Art Bell. Just tell them to type in Art Bell on their channel selector, and they can converse with us while we're on air.
All the way from Perth, Australia. My God, the world is getting very small.
I know, Art. I'm old enough that I remember when things weren't this way.
All right. So let us quickly retrench, if you wouldn't mind. There's such a large new audience out there right now. Tell them about the kind of craft we now have in our possession. You believe, or actually I pushed you into it, that it began with the Philadelphia experiment, or at least that was the genesis of the technology that you then moved forward with. And before we even get into that, let me ask you credential-wise, here is a question from Elaine, who says, would you ask your guest, how was he able to start independent work immediately after graduating from the Air Force Academy? Most people have a military obligation after graduation.
Well, tell her that I was in the class of 67, but there were 180 of us who resigned in a protest against the government interfering with our activities at the Academy in 64. I served 4 years after that in the Air Force Reserve at the Strategic Air Command Base at Fort Worth at Carswell, which meant that I could work in civilian life. And so I had a real-world job in the computer industry. I trained at IBM and then went into industry in Dallas, and I paid for what research I did at home.
So a lot of your research was actually very private.
Very private, and believe me, I wasn't out heading up a big team or anything at that time. This is why I couldn't understand how they found out what I was doing.
Well, so then apparently they did find out that you were dabbling in technology that you say they were doing more than just dabbling in, and they brought you into their wing, and by that you do name names, Dr. Maxfield, an associate of Edward Tellers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And tell the people one more time, if you would, as in the best layman's terms that you can muster up, what kind of craft we have now. What are called flying saucers. Ours, not theirs.
Okay. The ones that we have made are in two categories. Aircraft, which move the air electrically around the aircraft to make it suck itself forward, or electromagnetically, which uses electricity and magnetism in certain flowing patterns in and around and through the craft to make it move relative to gravity or to inertial fields. Is that too technical?
Well, let me try this. What are these craft capable of? What speeds can they attain? Can they leave the atmosphere without a problem, and so forth?
The later craft, the electromagnetic one, yes, they can. Ones they can leave the atmosphere. The ones I was designing were limited to atmospheric flight. The later stuff that I was shown and later studied could do things that probably the Philadelphia experiment touched upon, where you can actually gate between two areas in a very short space of time, almost like dimensional jumping. Again, I'm not an expert in that area. I only know what I saw in the assembly area and the papers that I was asked to read on the subject at that time.
Is this kind of a bending of space or a jumping across, or how would you describe it?
Sorry, I'm just looking at the mail coming in over your channel at the moment. We've got some very interesting comments.
I'm sure you'll find it very diverting.
Well, very rude in some cases.
I'm sure.
All right. Sorry, repeat your question.
My question was it a bending of space, or is that the way you would describe it, a bending of space or a jumping across?
Yeah, as far as I can understand, it's in line with what Einstein was postulating, that we can have mass operating in the same area but at different frequencies. Certainly, light can be bent using these pulsed overlapping fields. I've seen that myself in the lab. Beyond that, I can only guess that it's something like the hyperspace jump that you see in the sci-fi channels, or Star Trek or something like that, like a warp of space. Mm-hmm. If that is the case, theoretically, even light is not a limit velocity.
Now, here's a good question for you also by fax. if we have the kind of technology that you are talking about, then, and we've been developing it generally since about the 50s, which is what I believe you said, why in the world did we engage in such an expensive, stupid space race to go to the moon and all the rest of that? I mean, was it all a charade?
No, not entirely. Understand, you have to justify or explain R&D in a lot of areas that we needed for our own technology. If you have a bona fide space research program, what you do is you go out to various contractors and say to them, will you make this part or this box to do such and such? You have these kind of feeds coming in, and we want these kind of feeds coming out. Here are the parameters. Go build it and send it to us at this place. And so contractors can make things that can be used in both programs or in space research in general, never knowing what the final product looks like when they put it all together. So it allows you to get a government or public budget for something that is really not in the open arena. It's a black budget legally.
So you claim that when we have ongoing black budgets and black projects that are dealing with and enhancing and continuing to build these craft that so many people see fly?
Yes.
Is there going to come a point, Stan, when all of this is going to be made public? Is the government, in your view, going to come out and say, all right, people like Stan Dayo and so many others have blown it wide open, we might as well admit it? Will there be the equivalent of the Hazel O'Leary coming out and saying, yes, we poisoned the children or whatever?
Yes, it will come out. And I'm not sure whether it's purely because of my pushing or Stanton Friedman or John Lear or any of the rest. Most of us know each other in this game as far as what information we've been releasing. And we're concerned that it will come out in a manner that is not exactly true, but people will believe the lie. I got to tell you, look, I'm a student of the Bible and Hebrew and things like that. No particular religion. I'm just a student of those things. Mm-hmm. And certainly in the Genesis 6 account, there's a lot of discussion about off-worlders, sons of God, Nephilim, this kind of stuff, coming down to earth a long time ago and interbreeding with our people. There are Sumerian records, there are Vedic records, there are Egyptian records. You just can't really ignore them. So from this particular aspect, I tend to study the Hebrew and Christian prophecies and Nostradamus and a few others that talk about things that could be happening now that we have scientific proof of, if you wish. And so I tend to start, thinking like maybe these prophecies are correct.
All right. You are way off in Australia, but apparently you are, through the Internet, very well connected. I presume you are familiar with the story of Bob Lazar.
Oh, yes. I've seen his tapes.
All right. Good. Bob Lazar also describes technology somewhat similar to what you are describing. He claims to have worked on or claims to have been back engineering what he thought, I say again, what he thought were alien spacecraft. Is it possible that what he was working on was an experiment of a craft that is indeed ours, not theirs?
Possible, but I tend to believe that we have other beings here. Understand, before 1952, we didn't have these things, but we had reports of them. Okay, I mean, there've been reports and sightings and contacts for hundreds of years in our history. The crash in 1898, I think it was, in Texas, of the UFO that hit the water tower in that small town and came down. These things would indicate that they've been here before we built them. So he may have actually been back engineering some little critter's craft. I don't know. The biblical accounts and the Vedic accounts and the Sumerian accounts talk about humanoids with superpowers, so they look like us.
Yes. Are you there?
Say again?
Are you there?
Yeah, sorry. We just had a glitch on the line.
All right. All right, so you consider it possible there are others here, and yet at the same time you're telling us straight out that we have this technology, we have these craft, we've had them for some time, and if not all, then a good bunch of the ones that people see fly. And I'm pretty well believing that people see these things because I've seen one myself. Yes, I'm sorry to say I have. I was almost afraid to admit it publicly, Stan, but I have seen it. I saw a triangular craft that floated just above my head, and there's no mistaking. It was close. It was.
Sure it wasn't Venus or the moon or swamp gas?
No, Stan.
I'm teasing.
Believe me, I saw it. And I've taken a lot of heat for that, for admitting that I did, but I did. I live near Area 51. You think that Area 51 is not the center of the kind of activity that we've been talking about anymore. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if it ever was, but certainly I do know that when we have a secret project, we don't hang a sign up and says, this is a secret project. Please don't come in here or we'll shoot you.
That's true.
You never even know it exists. It could be like a bakery shop or a Piggly Wiggly delivery place. I mean, you'd never know.
All right. Now I want to move to another area quickly, and that is that tricky little paragraph about finding out things I might not want to know. And you said, well, this would cause people to panic or to begin to stockpile things or to move. Specifically, Stan, what do you believe is about to happen?
Well, okay. Scientifically, or like at least analyzing data and trying to extrapolate it, I see that we are moving into extreme periods of earthquake and volcanic activity on the planet, things that we have not seen in a long, long, long time. The United States is going to suffer a great deal in the West Coast, up the New Madrid fault line, and in Florida. Europe is, and North Africa, Northwest Africa, Spain, and the Mediterranean is also going to suffer a great deal of activity. Japan is probably going to be hit the worst. I can see the heat patterns building up under it on the satellite photos. In my guess, and this is certainly just a guess, I'm not an expert there, I would say that in the immediate future, talking in months, we're going to see some earthquake activity in Japan that will be astounding. I don't know when Scallion's forecast has put the great Japanese earthquakes, but certainly we have graphs here that show traditional periods of activity, and there's one in mid-October, one in mid-November, one in late to mid-December, and then we skip over to January, mid to late January, and then a dead period for a while. So I'm watching that area very closely for the next 4 months.
All right, so that people might understand how you are reaching these conclusions.
Yep.
These are pretty frightening things. What is going on with the Earth, or what is man doing, or what is happening that's going to precipitate this?
Well, man is not responsible for all of this. We're talking large dynamics here, planetary dynamics. The sun itself has done something rather strange, and over the last 5 years, solar physicists have noticed new frequencies coming out of the sun. It emits characteristic frequencies all the time. And one particular study has suggested that a couple of these higher frequencies are being absorbed by plankton or phytoplankton in the ocean or various other suspended solids in the ocean and is causing abnormal heating. Mm-hmm. This, in turn, breeds more of these phytoplankton and archaeobacteria and various other things that are breeding, which absorbs more heat, and then the water actually changes density when it gets hot. So you have cold water versus hot water densities, which is putting differential pressures on like weights on the surface of the Earth, causing more earthquake stress. Now, this is from a Japanese paper on the subject in the last year. Mm-hmm. So I look at these things and try to take the NASA data feed that we can get a hold of and build it into graphic pictures so that we can understand it at a glance. I wish there was a way that we could show you that, because I can certainly send it to you if you have some kind of a web page and you could share it with folks.
I do have a web page.
Do you?
Yes.
All right.
If you go to the web browser, and simply enter Art Bell, it will take you right there.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll do that, and I won't do it just now. I'll have to do it if we get off the air.
Yeah. Please. Yes. All right. Now, I would like to let the audience ask you a couple of questions. They're very obviously very anxious to do that. So I'm going to put it with what time we have left, and I'm going to carry it till the top of the hour.
All right. You want me to read you the questions they've been asking over the IRC, because my board is absolutely flooded here with questions.
I'm sure it is. Sure. If you want to answer a couple of the good ones, go ahead.
There's a guy named Tremor, Tremor.
Okay. I would rather not use any last names.
No, this is all nicknames. You know how they are.
All right. Yes, I do. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. Tremor has dialed in. Could you, on the air, tell us if these craft have gone into space? Answer: yes, they certainly have. Sorry, just another one of those rude questions came across.
Well, yeah, I encourage you, even though the Internet is fun and all, and chat channels are fun, it will be diverting for you to try to concentrate, so you really ought to sort of not concentrate on that for a while.
Okay, I'll turn them off. We'll look at it later. Take your phone calls. We'll go by the phone lines.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, here we go. West of the Rockies, you're on the air, believe it or not, with Stan Dayo in Perth, Australia.
Oh, hi. How's it going?
Okay.
All right.
My name's Joe. I'm from Aurora Grande.
Yes?
I was wondering, the craft that you're working on,
Yep.
do they, how do gravity A and gravity B waves correspond with the electromagnetic propulsion that you're talking about?
Are you speaking in terms of what Bob Lazar presented, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, I had not used terminology like Bob is doing, and I don't know Bob. But my understanding of how these fields, the new fields work, and I certainly haven't got mine to work yet.
Very quickly.
Is that one of the three vectors of overlapping magnetic fields is opened, and the other two cancel in two right-angle fields, which produces thrust in the Earth's field. That's it's very simplified, but I hope that says something to you.
Well, I don't know that it said anything to me, but it sounds like if it's true that somebody's going to come and see you pretty soon with a suit on, Stan. I'm at the bottom of the hour, so hold on down under there, all right? That's Stan Dayo in Perth, Australia. We'll come back and do another half hour with your questions.
You're listening to Art Bell Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring a replay of Coast to Coast AM from September 14th, 1995. You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time on Premier Radio Networks. Tonight, an encore presentation of Coast to Coast AM from September 14th, 1995.
Good morning from the high desert. I'm Art Bell. I have a very special guest on the line all the way from Perth, Australia. His name is Stan Dayo. He's got a lot of very incredible things to say, and in just a moment, we're going to get back to him. I must tell you, I'm getting faxes at a rate that I couldn't possibly handle. Just a couple of them for you. Stan, are you there?
Yes, I am, Art.
Back to Perth, Australia. All right, here is one fax. Hello, Art. Like your guest, I know of him. I was in a group that designed the simulators, disk simulators, signed anonymous with no fax header. Does that sound right to you?
Well, what can I say? I don't know who it could have been. Certainly, I have a couple people in mind, but I don't know that they would do a thing like that, or over the air, I mean, anyway.
I understand. Well, they signed it anonymous, and there's no way I could trace it. And then...
Well, it might be somebody just trying to have a bit of fun.
Yeah, well, maybe. Then there's, hi, Art, please continue to prompt your guest on the things that we may not want to know. Thanks, Jeff in Las Vegas.
Okay. All right, well, look, can I go for it here?
Go for it.
Okay. Art, disregarding my history with the government and the flying disc research and all that kind of stuff, if you just start back probably 18 years ago when I started researching why things were being covered up and what was really happening behind the scenes in the world in various areas, I came across some Christian folk and some Jewish folks, some rabbis and things that I studied with. And what has amazed me over the last 18 years is that my scientific research has shown that it is very probable, almost immediately, that things that these prophecies have been talking about will be happening to our planet. And to give you an example of this, I mean, what I'm going to tell you about, I can see happening from scientific evidence in our next decade sometime. Massive earthquake increases in diverse places all over the planet. A comet hitting the Earth in the oceans and polluting the water and a lot of the rivers around the area and killing a lot of sea life and marine travelers at the time. The Earth actually rocking on its axis, possibly shifting its magnetic polar orientation at the moment. The sun actually going dark, either from a dark cloud or dust cloud coming in between it and us, or from the sun emitting particles in the solar wind, which is certainly okay at the moment, but could become unstable. All of these things are mentioned in Christian and Nostradamus and various other prophecies. Mother Shipton in England, as you would have seen possibly if you read Nexus magazine in the States.
Yes, well, what bothers me, what unnerves me terribly, is that I hear it from Gordon Michael Scallion. I hear it from others who would call themselves prophets or visionaries or intuitives or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just a name. And then I hear it from people like you who are basing it not so much on a prophecy or of any sort, biblical or otherwise, but scientific evidence.
I know, and believe me, Art, people can interpret scientifically data in about a zillion different ways. I have tried to be as objective about it as I can. I hate being labeled a prophet or something like that, but I cannot ignore the increase in all the disasters. It has happened as we thought it would so far, and I'm concerned that people will not understand what the whole thing is about on the planet before it gets them. That's why I wrote the books. I've tried to explain a lot more. In fact, a lot of the questions that are being answered or asked over the air.
All right, well, you're in Australia now.
Yep.
How will Australia fare in these large earth changes?
Our west coast is probably going to suffer a bit of water damage, possibly a fracture line almost down the middle of the country. Certainly I can see evidence of it on the stress chart. The northeastern Australian area up near the Indonesian islands and New Zealand and the Solomons will suffer tidal wave or tsunami damage and possibly some quakes as this progresses, because that whole area is just terribly active.
All right, and so that we all understand how you're predicting this again, you're looking at charts that show you heating in places that you interpret to mean a magma shift is going on, a major magma shift. Is that correct?
I think that's what's causing it, yes. I'm also analyzing USGS earthquake data from the United States Geophysical Service on a daily basis, and I have a way to present the data graphically that lets us see a little bit more of the patterns.
All right, let's go to the phones again. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Stan. Hello.
Yes, all right. This is Karen in Houston, and hey, Stan, I've read some of what you've written, and I've been a long time wanting to talk to you, fella. There's an organization here in Houston, and it's akin to MUFON.
Yes.
And I've dropped in on some of their meetings, and out of their little library, I checked out one of your books, and I would like to ask you something very simple, but you don't have to respond if you don't want to.
All right.
All right. I've been very concerned about this topic.
Right.
I'm like you. I read everything I can get my hands on and talk to everybody I can. When it comes to the grand experiment, is that part of what you're talking about as far as the those who are hovering above us?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not so much an experiment as it is a resolution of a conflict that occurred out there.
Now, one moment,
Alrighty.
One moment, please, both of you. I don't know what you're both talking about. Who wants to explain it?
Let Karen.
Well, are we talking about the same thing now, Stan? Above the 33rd? 33rd level?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're discussing it, but go ahead and explain to the audience. Go ahead.
Well, something I read that had your name on it as being the author of it. It was a booklet kind of a thing, talking about the Masonic order and those above the 33rd level. And I have talked with a world traveler who has told me that the 34th and 35th are the ones who will come out and will take charge of things.
All right. Well, listen, let's hold it there. I think we've got enough to know what the road she was going down is.
Karen, to start with, I don't recognize the article that you're saying. I mean, certainly if it has my name on it, it doesn't necessarily mean I wrote it. We have been finding a lot of stuff that people have been trying to write on my behalf floating around. I am aware of the Masonic organizations around the planet, particularly the Grand Orient Lodge in Europe, and their relationship to the so-called Illuminati or the New World Order. Certainly, I still hold to that position, but the conflict I'm talking about is what in the Bible Belt we call the angelic conflict, or the conflict up in the heavens, out there amongst the beings that created us back in the Garden of Eden type experiment or courtroom or whatever. That is where I would be coming from, Karen.
All right. On the first-time caller line, you're on the air with Stan Dayo. Hello.
Hi, Stan. This Gecko.
Where are you, sir?
Reno.
Okay, turn your radio off.
All right.
All right. Go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Well, he's not turning his radio off, so we're moving on. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Stan Dayo. Hello.
This is Escondido Kogo.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask your guest why he was expelled from the Air Force Academy. I believe he said that. Whether he has any scientific degrees or achievements, and why would we work in Australia on a classified U.S. aircraft? I know of only one base there. It's at Alice Springs, which is a listening post once run by TRW.
All right, stay on the line and let him answer. Stan?
Okay. First question, I resigned, as did 180 others. If you look at the newspapers of the time in '64, you'll see that 180 cadets resigned. The first press release was that we were cheating on exams. The U.S. government later recanted and admitted that we'd had a disciplinary disagreement with U.S. Air Force for becoming involved in cadet activities to the point of hypnosis. And we had passed our final exams, or waived them, because we refused to take them if they didn't get out of our affairs.
Wait a minute, you say you were expelled for hypnosis?
No, we quit. We resigned because we were tired of the Air Force being involved, in our cadet activities to the point of hypnotizing us and using high-speed flash queuing and things which we didn't volunteer for. There were a number of other issues as well, but this is what we resigned over, and there were members of all classes that resigned, and it was such a big scandal that they just swept it under the carpet. So after that, I didn't finish and get a degree. I studied on my own bat wherever I was. And certainly you are correct. TRW was one of the contractors and may still be at Alice Springs at Pine Gap, but it's a DARPA project that the Navy primarily controlled in the beginning with MHD stuff.
Why would they work in Australia rather than the United States?
Well, because there's a lot of open space down here to do research on what we wanted to do, and there wasn't as much chance of running into people like there would be in the States. There's just not many places, even Arizona, that are quite as isolated as we are down here.
That would make sense. That is one of the most isolated, I think you dubbed it the most isolated city in the world, Stan?
It is, and to the caller there, the Alice Springs facility is only one of 5 bases that we have down here that I'm aware of, and it's in the middle of a desert that is, in the area where they are, is an Aboriginal reserve, and you're not even allowed on that reserve. It's like Indian reservation territory. You can't even get close.
All right. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Stan Dayo in Perth, Australia.
Yeah, this is Don in Wichita, and I wanted to ask if your guest, Stan, has read Holy Blood, Holy Grail.
Yes, I have.
An adjunct question would be, Saddam Hussein's dealings with France prior to the Gulf War, getting nuclear reactors. Do you think he understands the relationship of southern France and in Jerusalem, and has some insights into technologies that we may not want him to know?
Actually, I'll probably get a hand slap for this, but I think so. I know that he thought Hitler hung the moon. He studied everything about him, including his esoteric sciences. So, yes, I think he does.
All right. First-time caller line. You are Dan calling from San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio.
Okay.
And I want to ask Dan if he I know Lear has some feelings about a demonic aspect to this, And Norio Hayakawa seems to be heading in the same direction in terms of biblical prophecy.
Yes, I agree with Norio.
And I wanted you to address specifically the relationship of the government's involvement with what might be that particular aspect first, and then second, whether there's a dual aspect to the otherworldliness of the situation. And I'll just listen to it on the phone. Thanks.
On the radio. Okay, thank you. If I understand correctly what you said, the government's participation in this is a very confusing one at the moment. It is comprised of a lot of people of differing philosophies. From the biblical aspect, there are a lot of us, including Norio, I think, that are seeing that the prophecies which speak of Babylon, the new Babylon of this age, does include the United States, if not particularly target the United States as the Babylon of this age, which is not a good thing because it tells people who are members of that community of Babylon to get out of it so they are not afflicted by the same judgments that are going to strike that land. Now, again, this is interpreting prophecy and code from a long time ago. We may be wrong, but that is where we're heading. That government, our government, the U.S. government, may actually be in charge of the new Babylon, the confusion of this age. So the second question, Art, can you remember the second question?
No, I'm sorry. I certainly can't.
Sorry, it slipped my mind.
That one floated away. That was a tough answer. Hi, Art. Chilling, very chilling. Would you spell Stan's last name? It is Deyo. And you mentioned that you've got a website, Stan?
Not yet. I have an email. Do we give them that or not?
Yeah, if you want to give an email address there in Perth, Australia, go ahead.
All right. It's one word, STANDEYO, @IINET, NET, AU.
AU at the end?
Yeah, that's for Australia.
All right. Well, I see. I hope everybody got that. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Stan Dayo. Hi.
Hi. This is Tim in San Diego.
Yes.
I just want to ask, if this has been going on for so long, how come, how come it hasn't been leaked earlier than this?
Well, I think it has. I mean, there have been a lot of people like Professor James McDonald that suicided out in an Arizona hospital when he tried to leak information. People like, what was the physicist over in Florida, connected with the Vero project anyway. There have been enough people that tried to leak it very hard and just got aced.
Well, all right. So how come you're not worried about being aced?
I was in the beginning. I ran in this country when I broke with my controllers and, grew a beard and used a couple of, somewhat clever techniques to hide for a few months until I figured out how I was going to fight them. And then I came out and I published names. I named names without any question about it. I named names and places and people. And to this day, I've never heard from them. They've gone to ground and tucked their tail between their legs because they don't want any publicity.
So in other words, they figured once it's out, the best road is to leave you alone.
Either that, or to help me and perhaps feed me data that would steer me the way they wanted to go. I don't know. I've been very aware of that possibility as well.
All right. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Stan Dayo in Perth, Australia.
This is Ernie in Mississippi.
Yeah, in Mississippi, yes.
Yes. You mentioned earthquake on the New Madrid fault. Can you tell me how far south that goes?
I don't have the map in front of me, but I would say in Mississippi it would be, from what I've seen on the USGS chart, certainly you can get it, it would be north of you, but the damage from the change of the course of the Mississippi may be the problem in the south. I'm not a prophet. I'm just kind of estimating from where I see fault lines appearing up north of you there. There's intense activity north of you, probably one state away, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
I hesitate to tell people to start packing their bags and moving.
Well, judging from what you've said, thank you, in Mississippi, judging from what you've said, where would people move to, Stan?
I don't have an answer to that. I think it's time people kind of start looking at their spirituality and wonder what they do in the next life, because I don't think that there's going to be a lot of safe places on the planet.
So you, very much like John Lear, would advise people to enjoy your life, enjoy your families, and don't look too hard at what's ahead, because you might not want to know.
Certainly I would advise you to enjoy your life and your families, but on the other hand, I would encourage you to give some thought that if such a thing, if it does happen in your lifetime, is there an afterlife? Do we go on beyond this and explore this? Certainly, these are areas I've talked about in the magazine and in the books, because I think it's important. At this point, we cannot avoid what is coming. We've got to look at whether we're going to live after we die.
In other words, that's the best thing to look forward to, because the cataclysm that's coming is coming.
There are things we haven't even begun to discuss about new money systems and things that I know are in place and about to be put down on us across the planet that are, again, biblical prophecy. And that is not a natural disaster. That's a man-made catastrophe. There are just so many things that make it unbearable if you don't have a life after this. There's not a lot to look forward to.
Okay. We're about out of time, Stan.
Right,
internet addresses are very difficult. Give it one more time.
All right. STANDEYO. @ that's a little A with a curly around it.
Right.
IINET, full stop, or what do you call it, period, NET, period, AU.
And that will get emailed to you.
Yes, probably zillions of emails, but anyway, yes, I'll try to answer them.
All right. What time is it there now in Australia?
It is now 3:56 in the afternoon on Friday. We have sampled your day, and it's going to be a nice day from what we see.
Stan, I cannot thank you enough. It has been fascinating. I don't know what to believe. But I'm a good listener, and you certainly are a good teller of stories. And so,
Art, I'm going to send you some photographic data for you to use on your web page. It's the only way I know that we can share it with the folks, and I'll certainly do that.
And I certainly will share it. Stan,
thank you, Art.
Thank you. From Perth, Australia, that was Stan Dayo. Wow. That's going to cause you to swallow hard a couple of times.